Hello, welcome back to Mario Kart Tour 101. This video is the second in a two-part video exploring the question, which driver, kart, or glider should I choose? In the first video, we looked at the basic rules for picking from the top shelf when you have a top shelf driver, kart, or glider available, and what you should do if you have no top shelf item available for a course. So if you haven't seen that first video, go ahead and look in my playlist, Mario Kart Tour 101, and you can watch that now. Then come back and we'll go into the deep dive. All right, time for that deep dive. Check it out! Drivers. Why should you use a top shelf driver? Well, the main reason is you use top shelf drivers to get frenzies during a race because frenzies increase your action count, and the more actions you get, the more points you're gonna score. So you'll see on the driver selection screen that it'll say frenzy and have 3 boxes for the top shelf, or 3 item rolls for the top shelf drivers, only 2 items per box for the middle shelf, and 1 for the bottom shelf. So because it takes 3 item slots to get a frenzy, that's why you need to use a top shelf driver, so you can get your highest scores in the race by getting frenzies. Now, you don't literally get a frenzy by rolling the same item 3 times from RNG. The game actually does a separate calculation to say yes or no whether you get a frenzy or not, and if you don't, then it picks 3 separate items. But you need to have the 3 item boxes available to be eligible for a frenzy, and that's why you want to use top shelf drivers whenever possible. Let's talk about driver special skills. Unlike karts and gliders, where the special skill is mostly an afterthought, with drivers, the special skill actually impacts the item that the driver is able to roll from an item box. And therefore, the special skill can have an impact on how many actions you can perform during the race, because there are a few of them that will give you a lot higher of an action count than others. And so while you generally use the formula level times base points to pick your best top shelf driver and use whatever comes out as the highest, there are a few special items that we call premium or plus skills. You'll probably hear most people in the community call them plus skills, but I'm going to call them premium skills in this video so that you don't get confused with the plus version of a skill, like double bob on plus, adding a 3rd bomb to your rotation. So these premium skills are Coin Box, Boomerang, Lucky 7, and Giant Banana, and the reason they're considered premium skills is that they give you the opportunity to get a much higher action count because you get tons of coins out of a coin box or coin box frenzy. You can collect a bunch of extra coins with a boomerang frenzy and hit all the opponents around you. Same, you can make lots of hits and blooper hits with Lucky 7s and lots of banana hits with Giant Banana. And just the sheer number of hits you get compared to just like individual bombs or individual red shells is enormous with these premium skills. So how big of an advantage do they give you? Well, the typical rule of thumb when I started playing, which was around the end of year 1, was that a coin box driver has an advantage of about a level and a half over a generic skill driver. This was formulated at a time when there weren't very many boomerang, or I don't think there were any boomerang high ends. The only Giant Banana high end we were seeing at that time was Mario Sunshine, who just came out after I started playing, so it was focused mostly on Coin Box, because we had identified early on that Coin Box is the premium skill in this game. Coin Box is king, is the way that it's often said. And then Mario King came out and Coin Box really was king. Alright, so, but this applies not just to Coin Box, but you can also use a similar rule of thumb to Boomerang, Lucky 7, Giant Banana, but it's not an exact rule. It's not the exactly 1.5 level difference. It's to give you an idea that if your Coin Box driver or special skilled premium driver is 1 level lower, they may have the advantage because they get about a 1.5 level advantage. But if they're 2 or more levels lower, then they may not have the advantage. You'd probably be able to score higher with just your high-level generic skill driver. But this was formulated at a time in the game when the highest level was level 6, and we had just started to see cap tickets come into the game. So now that we have level 7 and 8 and more items getting triple and even quad capped, you actually realize a greater difference than 1.5 levels if you have your items at very high levels and very high caps, particularly if you have your karts and gliders as high-level top shelves as well, because the kart and glider levels also contribute to the bonus points boost per action, which means if you can get more actions from using a premium skill and they're worth even more because you have high level karts and gliders, then it's even greater than a 1.5 level advantage. So take that 1.5 levels with a grain of salt, but I'm going to show you how that applies. When you're in the range of like level 4, 5, and 6 items, it tends to be about a 1.5 level advantage. Here are a few examples of how you could choose between items using that rule of thumb. Here's Kamek, who's a level 5 single-capped coin box driver, and here is Cat Rosalina, or also known as Cat Daisy, a level 6 double-capped generic skill driver, not a premium skill. And the difference is one skill level, but also one cap level. And you can treat cap levels as roughly equivalent to skill levels because of the fact that the impact that it would have on the bonus points boost is roughly equivalent to having her at a 1 higher level. So since that's a 2-level difference, and since Kamek gets about a 1.5 level advantage from having coin box, you should actually pick Cat Rosalina, Cat Daisy, in this example. Because she's 2 levels ahead, and she would probably be able to get you a higher score if you get a good triple frenzy. Here's another example. Here's Mario Hakama, level 4 single-capped, and here is Peachette, level 5 single-capped. This time there's only a 1 level difference because there's 1 skill level difference, but the caps are equal to each other. So in this case, since it's a 1 level difference, and since Mario Hakama gets about a 1.5 level advantage from having the coin box skill, Hakama is actually going to be your preferred option. And with a few coin boxes in the race and a couple good frenzies, you're going to be able to score higher than you would even with a triple frenzy with Peachette. So that's the reason why we say that the coin box gives you that advantage. And then finally, here's an example. Much to my dismay, kind of broke my heart when this came up. I was trying to use Toadette Explorer on Sunset Wilds RT. You may know she's my favorite driver. I just could not get the points I needed on Sunset Wilds RT, and Gold Yoshi had been added to that course top shelf recently. In this example, Gold Yoshi is also level 6, like Toadette Explorer, but Gold Yoshi is double capped, while Toadette Explorer is triple capped. Right now she would have 1430 because they've increased the points for a triple cap, but it used to be 1400 for a triple cap. So in this comparison, there's 1 cap level of difference, and as much as I hate to admit it, I got a much higher score, a few thousand points higher with Yoshi Gold Egg than I was able to get with Toadette Explorer, because Yoshi Gold Egg has about a 1.5 level advantage due to the coin box skill, and is only 1 cap level behind her. So those are some examples of what it means that when something has a 1.5 levels of advantage, and whether you should pick the coin box driver or the generic driver. And you can apply those to other premium items such as Boomerang, Lucky 7, and Giant Banana as well, even though it was stated for coin box because that was the main thing that it was used for when that rule originally came out. There are a couple differences between which items have more of an advantage than that on longer or shorter courses. So coin box and Boomerang tend to have a greater than level and a half advantage on shorter courses, because if you're only going to regularly get 100 actions on a course, but if the coin box or the Boomerang lets you get up to like close to 150, 100 to 150 is a huge difference. And since you're still under the 200 action soft cap, where the bonus points boost is going to apply to all those additional actions, you're going to have a huge scoring difference on a short course by using a coin box or a Boomerang compared to a regular driver. Whereas with Lucky 7 and Giant Banana, those actually tend to have a greater advantage on long courses, maybe more than 1.5 levels of advantage on a longer course, because when you get close to or up to the soft cap, let's say, of 200 actions, and then you get an additional 40 actions from a coin box, from 200 to 240 actions is not as big of a difference as there would have been from 160 to 200, simply because past 200 they don't get the bonus points boost added in. So a coin's a relatively low scoring action, so if you're going above 200, the extra coins you get will not have as much of an advantage as even if you're only at 200 actions, but you've been getting Giant Banana hits, or your Lucky 7's been giving you shell hits and mushrooms. Those are worth more, just the base action point value, than the coin action is. So therefore, your Giant Banana is going to be able to give you higher scores than if you get the same number of actions with just coin boxes and Boomerangs. And that's the reason that Lucky 7 and Giant Banana tend to be greater of an advantage when they're used on long courses. And again, the level of your kart and glider and a lot of other factors also contribute to what the advantage is, leading some people to want a more definitive way of knowing which driver do they think is going to give them the better score on a specific course. And that's where some of the better questions on Reddit come, of which driver should I use, because they want to know for this specific course, is it better to use Coinbox? I know on like SNES, Choco Island 2T was in Ranked Cup recently, and everyone was like, I can't even score high with Coinbox because you're for so much of the course, you're in the air and there's so few item boxes and you're like gliding and jumping, they couldn't collect any of the coins from the Coinbox. So it does matter from course to course. And one way that you can do that is using score calculators. I'm only going to give you a couple examples of score calculators in this video, but you'll probably find others online, either in Discord or in Reddit. So a couple examples of score calculators are the Frenzy Fans calculator. You'll find that on their website at frenzyfans.com. And you can see here it comes with a space for you to enter your player level, and then it's going to tell you how many points you're going to score for first place. Then he gives you every tour a couple suggestions for your action count target, and it's not the like extreme maximum action you could score, but usually about 85 to 90% of that, because most people are going to be satisfied with like a double frenzy run without getting out like triple coin frenzy every single time. There's two action suggestions. Here it says 180 and 150, and that's because one of them is for the premium skill items, because you're going to get more actions using a coin box or a boomerang than just a generic driver. So the 150, the lower action, is for a non-premium skill driver. And so those are based on your driver skill, whether you're going to pick the high or low action count. You put in your bonus points per action, which he gives a suggestion for every track. But if you want to be more exact to how you race, you can look at the bonus points on your score summary, and you can look at the number of actions you had in that race and divide it and figure out your bonus points per action. And then what's going to happen is when you've entered your information, the calculator will tell you what it thinks your predicted score would be if you got that many actions in the race. And you can do a comparison by changing your driver level, for example, from level 3 to level 2. But if you notice here, I don't know if you can see it, the actions I put for the level 2 driver use the premium skill target, 180. So this is comparing like a level 2 coin box driver with a level 3 non-premium skill driver. And you can see that it actually came out with a higher calculated score, 22,000 for the level 2 Coinbox driver, than the predicted score 21,000 for the level 3 higher level generic skill driver. So therefore, this can help you to know on a specific course, and also based on your kart and your glider loadout, what your scoring potential would be if you switch between a premium skill or a non-premium skill item, and whether the premium skill at a lower level is enough to make up for that level difference. So another option is called the DKR.exe spreadsheet, because DKR.exe is the user who updates that every tour and who publishes that. So the ACR spreadsheet is used to track your all-cup ranking score, gives you a rank like where you can improve which tracks can you get the most improvement on. But one of the things you can use it for is it always gives you an estimated score after you enter your driver, kart, and glider loadout with the item, the level, and the base points. And it has a tab in the spreadsheet that actually relies on how many like jump boosts, dash panels there are in that level, how many glide times you can get if there's a glider section, the number of item boxes, it shows how many item boxes you'll get by the time you finish the race. And if you've entered a driver with a coin box skill or a boomerang skill, it's going to give you extra predicted actions for getting coin boxes in the race or for using a boomerang frenzy. So you have to keep in mind this is written for people who are going for the all-cup ranking, which is the top 1,000 or top 100 places in the tour. And so the score it's going to give you is like assuming you get perfect races, like triple coin frenzy or like coin box and boombox frenzies, that kind of a thing. So you may not actually hit the estimated score, but if you change from a non-premium skill driver like level 3, like Peach or something, to a premium skill driver like level 2 Mario Hakama with Coinbox, you'll see that the estimated score, which is listed on the side over there, might change from like 44,000 to like 48,000. And by seeing whether the score goes up or down when you change drivers, you can get a better idea of whether the premium skill driver is going to be viable for you even though they're at a low level. So that's an example where it gives you a specific calculation based on the actual actions and item boxes and dash panels and things that are available in each course, and based on the length, whether it's a long or a short course. So those are a couple examples of score calculators, the Frenzy Fans calculator, the DKR spreadsheet. I'm sure there are others. You can always just forego the spreadsheet if that seems like too much work, and you can just estimate it using the level and a half rule and pick what's going to be your best option. But that takes into account that those premium skills, Coin Box, Lucky 7, Giant Banana, Boomerang, can actually give you higher scores even if your driver is a slightly lower level. So now let's look at, are there any exceptions to the top shelf rule? We talked about if there's exceptions to level times base points based on the driver having a premium skill, but are there any exceptions to using a top shelf driver, which is Frenzy eligible? So typically you should always use a top shelf driver. So what I'm trying to say is there's not really any exceptions. You always are going to score well with a top shelf driver. However, However, it is possible to use a mid-shelf coin box driver in place of a level 1 generic skill top shelf driver, okay? I'm not saying you have to. It's not that you will score higher. It is possible you could score as high or maybe slightly higher depending on the run. Or it's possible you could score as high and do it easier with a mid-shelf coin box driver. So let's look at this top shelf here. The only driver I have is Daisy Yukata, level 1, 800 base points, and she does not have a premium skill. She has Fire Flower. As a level 1 driver, she also has the lowest possible frenzy chance that she would have out of any level, because the more that you raise the driver's level, the greater their frenzy chance becomes. So you may be going for a triple frenzy with her, and you find that it's just really hard to get it. You're only getting single or at best a double frenzy. And you might wonder, could I score more actions using one of the middle shelf coin boxers, which in this case would be Rosalina Swimwear, because she has higher base points. Not because of the level difference, because as long as they're level 4 or above on the middle shelf, the drivers are going to get their Coin Box Plus as a high-end driver, but because of the base point difference and because she has a larger hitbox, which means that when she shoots out coins, she's likely to collect more of the coins on the track. But if you can use the middle shelf coin box driver and get as many actions as you would have with your single or double frenzy runs with the top shelf driver, your score will actually come out equal. And because of her 1190 base points, your score would actually come out higher with Rosa Swimwear than it would with Daisy Yukata if you had an equal number of actions. Now that's hard to do because it means you need to get 2, 3, maybe even 4 coin boxes over the course of a race, which means you need to redo the race until you get that many coin boxes. The question is it easier to do that, or is it easier to redo the top shelf race until you get a triple frenzy, right? So when you're doing this, the reason that they score equal point values for an equal number of actions, though, is that the top shelf driver's level 1, which means she does not earn a bonus points boost. Remember, top shelf items only earn a bonus points boost at level 2 or above. If she had been a level 2 Daisy Yukata, you would never consider this, because at level 2, if you got equal number of actions between her frenzies and the middle shelf's coin boxes, her actions from the frenzies, and just all her actions in the race would be worth more because she'd be earning a bonus points boost. The only reason it's a viable strategy is that she's level 1, so she doesn't earn a bonus points boost, meaning if you can get an equal number of actions with the coin box driver that you would have with her, you can equal your score that you would have gotten using the top shelf. Another reason it's hard to do, though, is that when you're using a 2-item driver, you're going to be less likely to have defense, such as shells and bananas, because you need to take a run where you're getting lots of coin boxes. If you're getting lots of coin boxes, you're not getting as many other items like shells and bananas, so you're not going to have anything to defend against if the bots behind you are hitting you with red shells. And so that's one of the things that makes this strategy risky, but potentially profitable if you are if you'd rather go for the coin boxes than for frenzies with a low-level driver. So when you use this, remember, it must be a level 1 top shelf driver. If the top shelf driver is level 2 or above, they are definitely better. But if it's a level 1 top shelf driver, and it has to be a middle shelf coin boxer. I don't think you're going to do this with Giant Banana because the strength of the Giant Banana really lies in the Frenzy, and on middle shelf you're not going to get a Frenzy. True, the Lucky 7, if you get a lot of them, could give you more actions than just a generic run, but I don't think it's going to make up for having a Frenzy opportunity the way that Coinbox will. The reason Coinbox is so powerful is that a single good coin box could give you 20 or 30 coins, which is the number of actions you would have gotten with a good Frenzy. So therefore, that's the reason it has to be a level 1 top shelf driver that doesn't earn bonus points boost compared to a middle shelf coin boxer where you have the possibility to get an equal number of actions that you would have otherwise. I have extended this in one situation I can think of where I had only middle shelf generic drivers, no top shelf at all, and I was comparing like a middle shelf Ice Flower or like Bob-omb driver with a bottom shelf coin boxer. And actually, it was when Cheap Cheap Island came out, and I also had like a bottom shelf glider at the same time, so I was having a really hard time keeping combo on that course. And I actually ended up using a bottom shelf coin boxer instead of a middle shelf generic driver because I needed to get coin boxes and use them to keep combo. But that was very risky because if I got a coin box, which I needed, it meant I had no defense. There was no second item. So use it at your own risk. But just be aware, that is the possible exception to using a top shelf driver, is you could go one shelf lower to use a coin box driver if your top shelf is level 1. But if your top shelf is level 2 or above, just use the top shelf. Trust me, you're going to score higher that way. So that's it for drivers. We talked about the importance of getting frenzies, which is the reason we use top shelf drivers. We talked about the few premium or plus skills, which are Coinbox, Giant Banana, Boomerang, and Lucky 7. And we talked about how those could give you an advantage where you could use a driver with a slightly lower level if they have one of those premium skills. So that's it for drivers. Let's move on to carts. Why do we use top shelf carts? Well, the reason is that the shelf of the carts affects the bonus point multiplier, and a top shelf cart gets a ×2 multiplier to all bonus points earned during the race. That's not multiplying the combo bonus or the bonus points boost. It's just talking about the starting action value, such as 5 points for a coin, 10 points for a mushroom, 25 points for a banana hit. Those all are going to get multiplied by 2 if you use a top shelf cart, in addition to an extra multiplier based on the level of your cart. So when you see on the selection screen bonus points ×2 ×1.5 ×1, the ×2 multiplier is the reason it's important to use a top shelf cart if you have one available, okay? And then here's the action point multipliers based on the level of your cart. There's a sliding scale where this is one reason why at equal levels you might use rarity, super normal, or high end as a tiebreaker, because a level 6 normal cart is not going to have as great of a multiplier as a level 6 super, which is not going to be as great as a level 6 high end, as you can see in the table here. But you get these bonus point multipliers from the shelf of your cart, so you want to use top shelf because that's the biggest, from 1 to 1.5 to 2, and then you get a slightly smaller difference between level, which is why you use level even to pick between middle shelf items, and certainly to pick between top shelf carts. So I said that it was important to use a top shelf cart if you have one available. Should you buy a top shelf cart, either from the special offers or with rubies from the Spotlight shop? The answer is you may not need to. If it's a top shelf cart you're planning to invest in and put in some tickets to take to a higher level, then that would give you an advantage to have a bonus points boost with a top shelf cart. But if you're just going to buy it and keep it at level 1, you almost might as well just use the middle shelf cart. In fact, I would say you might as well just use the middle shelf cart. Carts is where it's the least important to have top shelf out of any of the 3 items. You still want to use it if you have it available, but don't feel pressured to buy one if you don't. And the reason is, if I go back to the action point multipliers, let's say you have a level 1, if you're buying it from the Spotlight shop, it's probably going to be a high-end cart, and it's on the top shelf. Then you're going to have the multiplier times 1.10 for a level 1 high-end, in addition to the ×2 from having the top shelf. And in that situation, 2 times 1.10 is 2.2. That's going to give you a times 2.2 multiplier if you buy a top shelf cart. However, if you already have a level 6 middle shelf, let's say, and the middle shelf bonus points boost is times 1.5, then 1.5 multiplied by the 1.25 that you get for having a high level high end is something along the lines of 1.8 or 1.9, I think 1.875 or so. And so the difference from times 2.2 to 1.875, it's not as big as it seems. It's not really a difference of like 1.5 to 2, but it's only a difference of like 0.3, with 0.3 times 10 for a mushroom action is going to be like a 3-point difference. 0.3 times 25 for a like a banana action or a shell hit is going to be about a 7 or 8 point difference. So yes, you are going to score more points for every action using the top shelf cart if you were to go and buy a level 1 top shelf cart. But at the end of the day, even if you put this into the score calculator, you can see for yourself, you're only going to get about 400 or 500 points more by buying that top shelf cart. Whereas having a top shelf glider or having a top shelf driver can be worth much more than that. So if it's only going to be a 300 or 400 point difference and you're getting like tens of thousands of points already in your race, based on the drivers and gliders that you're using, you may as well just run with the middle shelf cart and don't feel pressured to buy a top shelf. Here's another example. If you only have a middle shelf available, which in this case is the Banana Master, should you buy one of these top shelf carts? And I want to use this example to bring up another consideration, which is that you could buy any of these top shelf carts, but I don't know if you notice, all of the carts on this top shelf right here are actually very small sized carts. They have a much smaller hitbox, and I want to use this to introduce the importance of Kart Hitbox, which we've come to recognize a lot more within the last year of the game. The Banana Master is actually a relatively large-sized cart, which means it's more likely to pick up coins on the track. If you're using a coin box driver, it's more likely to pick up coins from that coin box, whereas the carts on the top shelf here are actually all relatively small-sized carts, which means you may get fewer actions if you use them in the race, because you won't be able to hit as many of the coins when you're going through a coin line or going over a jump, simply because of the smaller hitbox. So therefore, even if you can get 400 or 500 points more using one of the top shelf carts that's shown up here, you may actually lose those points by getting 2 or 3 fewer actions that you would have gotten with the Banana Master. So Hitbox is important because larger carts can pick up more coins and they can hit obstacles on the track more easily, such as Snow Person in Frap Snowland or some of those courses, such as the jack-o'-lanterns that go on during Halloween season. Anything that you can hit, like traffic cones, anything you can hit to increase your action count, it's going to be easier to hit it, as well as picking up coins with a larger size cart. And they're particularly valuable, as I mentioned, when they're used with coin box drivers, because especially if you have a wide cart. Because when you have a large cart and you're spraying coins out in front from a coin box, you're going to collide with more of them. Your hitbox is going to hit and pick up more of those coins than it would with a smaller cart, which means you're going to get more actions in that race. There are charts and spreadsheets to show you the relative hitboxes of different carts. You can find these resources on Discord and Reddit as well. They're updated from tour to tour. Here's an example of a spreadsheet that shows you the exact numerical measurements for length and width in terms of the number of pixels on the screen. It gives you an X value in bold, which is assuming that you're drifting at an angle, because a lot of times when you go through a coin line or go over a jump that has coins at the top, you want to put your cart at an angle to maximize the frontward surface area that's shown to those coins, because you're more likely to collect 2 or 3 coins out of that line instead of just a single coin. And so that's how these are kind of ranked. You'll see there are some kind of tier list formats that list the large carts down to the smallest carts in the game. And it's particularly useful, like I said, with a coin box driver, but it can be useful with any driver, just simply to help you pick up track coins. Are there any exceptions to using a top shelf cart? So I'm bringing this up now because it relates to Hitbox. Typically, you should always use a top shelf cart. You don't need to buy one if you don't have one. It's not imperative, but if you already have one, you're going to score better using the top shelf cart. Unless the top shelf cart is a level 1 small cart, and you have a middle shelf cart that's a very high level and has a large hitbox. It's possible that you could actually get enough more actions with the large hitbox to make up for that difference. But it can't be like a level 1 middle shelf. If it's a high level top shelf, you're already going to score more because of the bonus points boost. It has to be a level 1 top shelf, just like it had to be level 1 driver with the driver exception. And it has to be a high level middle shelf to get close enough to the points per action value that you'll be able to make up the difference with the extra actions you'll get from that hitbox. An example where I've actually used that in practice has been the Zoom Broom, which it's very long, but it's very narrow, so a lot of people find it harder to drive to pick up coins on the track. The Zoom Broom was the only top shelf cart that I had available when Rosalina's Ice World RT came to the game. And I found that there were 3 or 4 coins on the cave section at the beginning of the lap that I just could not consistently pick up. I could never get all of the coins in that section using the Zoom Broom. In the glider section on lap 2, I couldn't get all the coins in the air. And I had a middle shelf cart available, which was at level 6 and double capped, which was the Comet Tail. And the Comet Tail is a much wider and certainly a very large hitbox cart. And for me, it was just easier to drive because of its shape and size, because of its dimensions. I was able to consistently get all of the coins in the cave section, many more coins in the glider section, and even though it was middle shelf, I used it in my ranked cup because I was able to get enough additional actions that it gave me a higher score than the level 1 Zoom Broom cart did. So that's an example where there is an exception, but you can't go wrong with a top shelf. Unless you're confident that you're going to score enough more actions with the middle shelf cart to make that large hitbox viable and make up for the bonus point difference, go ahead and just use a top shelf item. But this exception's there if you need it, if you come across that situation in real life. So let's end off with Kart special skills. This is a chart showing the special skills and the bonuses that you get for every time you perform one of those particular actions when using that special skill. You got Dash Panel Plus, Jump Boost Plus, Mini Turbo Plus, you've got Slipstream Plus, and Rocket Start Plus. And you'll see often on Reddit, people ask, like, which special skill cart should I invest into? And the answer to that question is, you should not be investing into a cart based on special skill at all. Because if you look at this table, all of the point values are like in the single and double digits. The highest is Rocket Start Plus, but people used to trash Rocket Start Plus in YouTube videos because they thought you only get one Rocket Start a race. Why would you choose that over something like Mini Turbo or Slipstream? But the truth is, a Rocket Start Plus cart gets you plus 80 for the Rocket Start. You'd have to do 20 Mini Turbos with a high-end Mini Turbo Plus cart before you even equalized that start that point value. And then every Mini Turbo on top of that only gives you 4 more points. So look, no matter which cart you use, it's going to have one of these special skills, and the difference from one special skill to another is going to be like 50 or 100, couple hundred points at most in the most extreme case. And when you're going for tens of thousands of points and 1,000-point differences by using higher versus lower level carts, the few 10 or 100 extra points that you're going to get from based on which cart skill you pick is really going to be irrelevant. It does not matter. So although someone might tell you, oh, don't invest in that cart, it's like Slipstream or it's Rocket Start, that you shouldn't invest into that, don't believe them. The special skill for cart is truly the least important aspect. I would almost say it does not matter, and the only time I would consider it is if you have exactly identical carts, like identical hitbox, identical level, base points, shelf, everything identical. Then I would consider which skill is best for that specific course. But as an example of that, someone might look at this top shelf and think, okay, There's Rocket Start Plus, which they've heard someone tell them is not a good special skill. But there's Jump Boost Plus, so maybe if we're on a trick course, a T course, and there are a lot of jump boosts, maybe we should use Jump Boost Plus. Or if we're on a course with a lot of dash panels, maybe Dash Panel Plus. And the truth is, the special skill really should not be what they're thinking of at all, because special skills are basically irrelevant in the scheme of things when figuring out your race score. In fact, what you should pick here is probably just simply pick the largest kart, which is the Pirate Sushi Racer, because the other karts on this slide, if you look them up, you'll find they are actually relatively small karts. With the Pirate Sushi Racer, you're probably going to get 3 extra coins, and the value of that in your actions count is going to dwarf any extra bonus that you would have gotten by using Jump Boost or Dash Panel Plus. So really go for Hitbox and go for level and base points first, then Hitbox as a tiebreaker before you even consider the kart skill. Let's look at a couple examples of picking a middle shelf kart if we don't have a top shelf available. For top shelf, level times base points, you're going to figure out which kart is best. If you don't have a top shelf available and you're picking from the middle shelf, what is most important? Is it the skill? Is it the base points? Is it the level? If you know the rules of thumb, you'll know this is a pretty obvious choice. The Tanuki kart has the higher base points, and on middle shelf, the base points are typically the most important factor. Someone might wonder though, is it better to use the P-Wing because it has Mini Turbo Plus, and they've heard Mini Turbo Plus is a better skill. Maybe they're planning on front running, so they're not going to plan to benefit from the Slipstream Plus. Well, look, the Mini Turbo Plus is like 4 points per mini turbo that you do in the race because it's a high-end kart. Even if you do 50 mini turbos in the race, which is a huge amount of mini turbos, that would be like a 200-point difference. But look, the Tanuki kart is starting with a 105-point advantage for base points, okay? And the Tanuki kart is also level 6, which means on this sliding scale, a level 6 high-end has a times 1.25 multiplier. Level 4, which is the P-Wing, only has a times 1.2. It's a 5% difference, but it's going to mean like 1 to 2 points per action in the race. Yes, you're going to get 4 extra points for every mini turbo, but the Tanuki kart is going to get 1 to 2 extra points for everything that's not a mini turbo. So look. Truthfully, the special skill difference is only going to amount to about 100 to 200 points max, and you're going to make that up by using the better kart in terms of shelf, level, and base points. So really, you should only be looking at the special skill as a tiebreaker if you have identical base points and identical levels. Level 4 and 5 could count as identical on the middle shelf, or level 6 and 7 could count as identical because of how the sliding scale over here works. But unless everything else is identical, you shouldn't be looking at the special skill. Just use the Tanuki kart because it's going to give you a higher score due to the base points and due to the level. Now here's a second example of picking a middle shelf kart. In this one, you've got a normal kart. It's level 6, but it only has 380 base points. It has the Mini Turbo Plus skill, which is plus 4 points for each Mini Turbo. A lot of these high-ends have the Jump Boost Plus skill, which is plus 8 points for each jump boost. So for every 2 mini turbos, you can do 1 jump boost. But look, don't worry about all that. You're talking about differences at the end of the race of like 20 or 30 points. You're not talking about hundreds of points differences here. In this situation, you might also think the level 6 of the warship is going to give you a bigger advantage. But look, a level 6 normal in the sliding scale compares with a level 2 or 3 high-end, which I have available. So the fact that it's level 6 won't even give you an advantage in this situation. So that's why I say the base points tend to be more important on middle shelf. Either the base points, or if there's absolutely 0 jump boosts in the entire race, you could conceivably make up the 20-point difference with the warship. I mean, you would make up that 20-point difference by doing mini turbos. But look, there's going to be jump boosts somewhere on almost every track, even a normal track. Honestly, the differences between these karts are so small, you might as well just pick the... none of them have a very good hitbox, except the Zoom Broom, which is long, but it's so narrow that it's hard to drive. I would just go with whichever one you like the best. If I was using Daisy Yukata, I would honestly just pick the Festival Girl because it matches her the best. You know what I mean? If I was using a gold driver, I might just pick the gold pipe frame. It doesn't really matter. It's not that deep on the middle shelf for karts, okay? Here's a last example. Now here there is one that clearly stands out. I'll let you pick which you think it is. Maybe that was too obvious because there's one super level 5 408 base points and there's 3 high-end level 1 400 base points. So maybe it was obvious. One of these does not belong, but okay. The reason we're using it though, even though base points is the most important, it's not because of the extra 8 base points. Look, base points is most important, but when you're talking about like 600 compared to 400, 8 extra base points you could consider equivalent. You could round them both to 400. But the reason it's a better choice is that it's level 5. We're using level as a tiebreaker here. Now, if you've been following along, you'll remember that there's a sliding scale where a higher level super is not necessarily better than a low level high end. But if you look at the scale, a level 5 super is better than a level 1 high end. So you're going to get 1 to 2 extra points maybe for each action during the race, for most of them anyway. And if you do, and you do 100 to 200 actions in a race, you're going to score a couple hundred extra points with the level 5 super than you will with the level 1 high ends. And the other reason why it's the best choice is it actually has the largest hitbox out of all these carts as well. The black B-Dasher is a little bit wider but shorter, and so if you're going at an angle to collect coins over a jump or something, the cucumber is actually going to be easier to use to pick up those coins. So this is also another example where if you're picking based on cart skill, you're going to pick it wrong and you're not going to score as high, because you'll see the Slipstream Plus is not considered a good cart skill, but the cucumber is still the best cart option because even if you have mini turbo or jump boost or dash panel plus, that might give you an advantage of like 50 or 100 points over the course of the race. But you're going to get 200 or 300 points more with the cucumber because of its greater bonus point per action with the bonus point multiplier, and probably a couple extra actions because of its larger hitbox. So those were a few examples of picking from middle shelf carts. I hope that I've been able to demonstrate that there is a sliding scale of action point multipliers, and the most important action point multiplier is actually the ×2 that you get for using a top shelf cart, which is why you should use it if it's available. I introduced the idea of hitbox, and we talked about the fact that the cart special skills are largely irrelevant compared to any other factor that would go into choosing a cart. In fact, I would only use special skill as a very last resort. I would say that is the least relevant factor out of anything in your entire loadout, driver, cart, or glider. So now that we've talked about carts, let's go on to the third and final deep dive, which is gliders. Why do we use a top shelf glider? And so you'll find 2 answers to this question on Reddit, and there are really 2 reasons. It's because top shelf gliders have a greater combo point bonus for keeping combo, and they have a greater combo time boost, so it's easier to keep the combos. If you look on the glider selection screen, you'll see that on the top shelf it shows combo bonus ×3 and big combo time boost versus ×2 and just a regular size combo time boost, or no time boost and a combo bonus ×1 on the bottom shelf. Now, if you ask someone on Reddit which glider should you choose and why is it important to choose a top shelf glider, you'll probably find the answer that it's because of the combo time boost. And while the top shelf gliders do have a larger combo time boost, I will certainly tell you that is not the reason it is important to choose a top shelf glider. That is a reason it can be helpful. But the reason you must always use a top shelf glider if possible is the combo point bonus. And here's an example of why. The combo time boost has a sliding scale and depends on normal, super, or high end and the level of your item, just like the point multiplier did for carts. And if you look in here, the combo time boost is greatest for a level 8 high end, it's least for a level 1 normal. Technically, it is possible that a middle shelf glider could have a greater combo time boost, and it could be easier to maintain the combo than it would be with a low level top shelf. It would have to be a super level 8 or a high end level 6, 7, or 8 that's on middle shelf compared to a normal or super low level top shelf, as you see highlighted in the slide here. Well, 2 things. First of all, if you have a level 8 and 6, 7, and 8 high ends, I don't know how you still have any level 1 normal gliders, because there aren't that many level 1, there are no extra normal gliders that have been added to the game recently. and it's questionable whether you even have a level 1 super glider at that point. So this is kind of a false comparison, because if you have these high-level super and high-end gliders, you probably aren't sitting with level 1 normals and supers in your inventory for gliders. But, even if you have a slightly longer combo time boost with a middle shelf glider, you should still pick the top shelf glider, because the time boost is not the most important factor. The combo point bonus is the reason you must use a top shelf glider if at all possible. It doesn't matter, normal, super, or high end, it doesn't matter. Use a top shelf, low level normal glider if you have it available instead of a middle shelf high end, because a top shelf glider earns 45 points per action in a long combo. This is for 150cc. A middle shelf glider, even if it's high end, even if it's level 8, will only earn you 30 points per action in a combo, and a bottom shelf maxes out at 15 points per action in a combo. And look, if you're performing 100 actions in the race, and most of them are part of this combo, 100 actions times the 15-point difference between middle and top shelf is like 1,500 points. It's over 1,000-point difference between a middle shelf and a top shelf glider. So look, you could even break combo if the middle shelf had a slightly higher combo time and you got a combo break, you'd still score higher with the top shelf because of that extra 1,500 points that it's going to give you, or more. But look, you're not gonna, it doesn't matter, because you're not gonna be in that situation where you have a middle shelf glider with a higher combo time than your top. Your top shelf is gonna have a higher combo time in practice, but that's not the reason it's important. The reason it's important is the combo point bonus, and a lot of times people forget that, and they start to try and calculate which combo time is better. Don't worry about the combo time. Just use the top shelf so you can get those extra 1,000 points or more from the combo point bonus, okay? Here's an example of applying that. So in this top shelf, you can see there's a level 1 top shelf glider compared to a level 6 and double capped middle shelf glider. So look, the Aurora balloons here have about 200 more base points. So you're gonna start the race with more points. They don't have that much difference of a combo time, and you might think, oh, they have a good skill. They have Mushroom Plus, and I want to get Mushroom Frenzies. No one's trying to go around and get Super Horn Frenzies, right? So maybe because of the Mushroom Plus, and because of the level 6, and because of the base point difference, someone's going to think they should use the Aurora balloons. I'm sorry. Incorrect. You should not use the Aurora balloons, okay? You must use the top shelf glider, because if you use the Aurora balloons, you may get 200 extra points from the base points, and you may get 150 extra points if you get a Mushroom Frenzy in that race because of the Mushroom Plus skill. But you are throwing away over 1,000 points in combo point bonus that would have been added to your score if you had kept your combo with the top shelf glider instead of using a middle shelf glider. It's not related to if you keep the combo or not. It's just saying when you keep the combo, which you will in your high score run, you need the top shelf glider to maximize the scoring. So, are there any exceptions to the top shelf rule for gliders? Say it with me. N-O. No, absolutely not. There is no exception. There's no situation in which you should prefer a middle shelf glider over a top shelf. You must use a top shelf glider if you have one available, otherwise you are throwing away points and you won't maximize your score. That is unlike karts and gliders, where I did give you a possible exception where you could make up for the difference. With gliders, there is no way to make up for that difference because the combo point bonus does not depend on size, level, base points. It doesn't depend on rarity. It only depends on the shelf of your glider. You must use a top shelf glider. Okay, have I made my points? You must use a top shelf glider. Let's talk for a moment about glider special skills. Again, I'm going to put up this chart of the combo time bonus just so we can have some comparison between super, normal, and high end. We're looking at picking between top shelf here, and the rule for top shelf selection is level times base points. The level times base points for the eggshell glider is going to come out higher than for the gold glider, because 7 times 450, or even if you do level minus 1 times base points for both of them, it's going to come out higher than it would 6 times 490. 7 times 450 is about 31 something, 6 times 490 is a little under 3,000, so based on that rule, you should pick the eggshell glider. But a lot of people are going to think, The coin skill is probably the best special skill you could get because it's going to add points for every coin you collect. Well, there's a caveat. The coin special skill only applies to coins that appear in your item slots that you roll from an item box. It does not count coins that you pick up on track, even if they're part of a coin box. It does not count those coins. Only the actual coin item that you roll. And the coin plus for a high-end glider is only worth like +3 for every coin, whereas you're going to get a couple extra points per action of bonus points boost by using the level 7 super glider. So even though you start a few points behind in base points, and even though you don't have the best special skill, you should use that eggshell glider because you're using level times base points. I'm presenting this as another example of how, even though people get tied up about which special skill gliders should they invest into, yes, it's a consideration, maybe more so than with carts, because it affects what items you're likely to roll, but it should not trump level or base points. The original heuristic rule still applies. The special skill bonuses for these items are going to be, again, in the like single or double digits. For a coin you can see +3 or +2, depending on if it's high-end or super glider. So it's nothing to write home about. You're not going to be able to make up for the, in this example, the level 7 versus level 6 difference. Truthfully, I don't like using green shell gliders. I would rather use the coin glider. There's some data mining recently that, at least in the current state of the game, you're more likely to get coin frenzies with a high-end coin glider, and you're also more likely to roll the single item. So if you're not trying to get coin boxes, but if you're trying to get coins and coin frenzies, you'd like to use the coin glider better. I just don't like using green shell gliders if I can avoid it. I'd honestly probably double cap the gold glider. If this was my top shelf, I would probably double cap the gold glider and use that if it was on a ranked cup, so that I could avoid using the green shell. But if I didn't have the cap tickets, or if it wasn't worth the investment to me, you should use that green shell glider, because the extra few points you're going to get from the coin plus special skill are not going to make up for the scoring potential of using the higher level glider. So one interesting thing about glider skills is that they've recently made the change where the game now gives you the glider special skill point bonus shown here if you're using a driver-specific item that includes that item. For example, triple mushrooms, you'd get, when you use triple mushrooms, each of the 3 mushrooms that you use will get the +15 points. Lucky 7s will get the extra points for super horn hits if you're using a super horn plus, for blooper hits, which makes blooper, because you get so many blooper hits with a lucky 7, it makes the +15 for every single blooper hit very valuable if you have a blooper plus glider. Unless you're getting like a triple, I don't mean triple mushroom frenzy, but like 3 mushroom frenzies in a race, or unless you're getting like so many single lucky 7s, you're not going to see that much of a difference. Maybe like a few hundred points at most if you get a really good lucky 7 run with like a blooper plus glider. The only one that's really worth noting is if you use a banana plus glider with a giant banana top shelf driver. It has to be top shelf so that you're going to be able to get a giant banana frenzy. And in that situation, the +30, or if it's a super, the +20, which isn't quite as good, that you're going to get for having the banana plus could actually make up for a small level difference or base point difference. I wouldn't go so far as to say it would make up for a top to middle shelf difference, but it could make up for a level or base point difference. Because if you get a good giant banana frenzy in the race, and maybe they go through again during lap 2, let's say you get 40 banana and giant banana hits during the race, right? 40 times 30 is like 1,200. So you could actually get over 1,000 point or close to 1,000 point scoring differential by using a banana plus glider in that one specific scenario. It has to be a top shelf giant banana, or maybe triple banana driver, but you're gonna need to get like multiple triple banana frenzies because you don't get quite as many hits as you do with giant banana. So in that situation, you could make up for the level or base point difference. But again, I don't think it would make up for the shelf difference, because if you're getting that good of a giant banana frenzy, you certainly have well over 100 actions in the race, which means you're going to have probably 2,000 points or more combo point difference between using a top shelf and using a middle shelf. So that even if you get 1,200 points here, it's not going to make up for a 2,000 point combo difference. I would just simply take that special skill into account if I was picking between similar, same shelf items that were close to each other in level for a giant banana top shelf driver. Here's a middle shelf example of picking between middle shelf gliders. Remember, we're only going to pick from middle shelf if we have no top shelf available. That is an absolute rule for gliders. So the rule for picking between middle shelf in that situation is use the item with the higher base points. And so in this situation, that would be the Star Chute with 490 base points. You might wonder if you're having trouble keeping the combo with the Star Chute because it's middle shelf. Would it be worth more to not break combo and to use one of these level 7 gliders over here? But actually, if you look at the sliding scale, technically a level 4 high-end glider has an equal combo time bonus to a level 7 super. So using the level 7 wouldn't even make it easier to keep the combo. You might as well just stick with the level 4. It's got 490 base points, and it actually has the coin plus special skill, which is, although we talked about earlier, it's a small difference, maybe like a 50 or 100 point difference in your score. It is preferred as a special skill and makes it more likely for you to get coins during the race. The only situation, again, where I might deviate from that, since these are on equal shelf as each other, and since I don't have a top shelf item available, I might use the banana plus special skill if I had a top shelf giant banana driver and was counting on getting a lot of giant banana hits from a giant banana frenzy during that race. Now in this case, it wouldn't be quite as big of a difference as if it had been a high-end banana glider, because the banana skill for a super was only worth plus 20 instead of plus 30. But still, if you get 30 banana hits at plus 20 each, that's going to be 600 points, which more than makes up for the base point difference between these two gliders. But that would be the only situation where I would consider the glider special skill as anything other than a tiebreaker. So that's it for gliders. We talked about the combo point bonus and how that's the main reason that it's important and imperative really to use a top shelf glider or the highest shelf of that you have available. We talked about the combo time bonus. You will hear people say that that's the reason that you need to use the top shelf, and that is a reason, but it's not the reason. But we talked about the sliding scale for the combo time bonus and how you have slightly higher for a high end than you do for the equal level super. And we talked about special skills and how really, just like with Karts, the special skill should be used as a tiebreaker, but it's more of an afterthought. Not quite as much as it was with Kart special skills, because they do affect what items you're going to roll in a race, but you should limit that to a tiebreaker unless it's the one exception, the giant banana driver that we talked about. So, that's it for gliders, and that wraps up the deep dives. You have the skills now to confidently decide which driver, kart, and glider to choose for a course if you remember shelf, level, base points, rarity, skill. And if you remember for picking between top shelf items to multiply level times base points and use whatever's the highest. And you know how to pick from middle shelf using base points as the most important factor, but remembering that level can still have a slight impact as well as other factors such as the hitbox for a kart. I hope that you'll enjoy using this information in the game, that it'll make it more rewarding for you, and that you'll have more confidence in deciding what items you're going to use to maximize your loadouts on each track. If you haven't yet done so, go ahead and leave a like on the video, and please let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this video, if you have any questions that you feel like I didn't cover, or where you'd like clarification, or if you just have other ideas for Mario Kart Tour 101 videos that you think would be fun, informative, and educational. Don't forget to subscribe to be notified when new content comes out, and I will catch you later.